everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven. This is Northwest Small Batch Brewing, and today I'm going to be doing a brew chat, I'll just put that anywhere, about something called Autolysis, which you probably saw in the description. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. That's how I've always heard it, although it's spelled a little differently. But at any rate, this is something that I think a lot of homebrewers either don't know about or just have tucked away as maybe at some point I'll need to know, but right now I don't need to know, and I'll come back to it if I end up thinking I need to know. So it really this will affect people who make higher ABV products. So wine, mead, cider, and some beers. It does affect beer brewers because if you're making like a barley wine or imperial stout or something like that, that's a higher ABV. This is something you have to know about, or at least make arrangements to keep it from happening. So I took some notes because I got a lot to go over in a short amount of time. And anyway, so what is Autolysis? Well, the name itself is the definition. It is self-destruction. It's the decomposition of the yeast cells, the actual cell membranes. Why does that matter? Well, I've always said that yeast will giveth and taketh away. So what that means is that yeast puts out a lot of off flavors like diacetyl, acetaldehyde, all kinds of stuff, different gases. But it gives you good stuff too, right? You want the carbonation, you want the alcohol, but you need it to reabsorb all the flavors that you don't want back into itself. And so that is why I always have had this rule that's worked well for me. Not set in stone. It's just my personal rule, which is I always let my beer ferment for a minimum of 1 month, no matter what. And it works pretty well because it makes sure that you've given enough time for fermentation to finish and that the yeast has had time to reabsorb any off flavors. So what happens is during Autolysis, these yeast cells basically burst open and re-release all of those nasty chemicals and enzymes that it had reabsorbed back into your beer or your beverage, whatever you're making. So, cheers. What causes Autolysis? Well, there's a couple things, but the main thing that causes it is long periods of aging on the yeast cake or poorly handling your yeast. Usually it's long periods of time, right? So I generally ferment for a month, and then I throw the fermenter, which I also double as a keg, into my kegerator and then just serve right off of that for the next month. So several months, you're totally fine having it on the yeast cake and not moving it into another vessel. Anything longer than that, you're going to need to move it into another vessel for aging, get it off that yeast cake, make sure that you have as little, airspace at the top of your secondary container. By the way, secondary refers to secondary fermentation, not a secondary vessel. Secondary fermentation is when you've finished your fermenting and you've added more sugar and it starts up fermentation again. Secondary is oftentimes misspoken. What people really mean is they're racking into another vessel. If you rack your brew, then you're moving it into a new vessel, but you're not doing a secondary fermentation. All right, anyway, that was a little offshoot there. So what does it taste like? What happens if your yeast cells burst? Well, it gets kind of sulfury, like egg smelling, sulfury. And this one's real nasty to me, at least. It gets kind of like a meaty barbecue. Like, have you ever you ever get a ground beef that's been in the refrigerator too long and it start to turn brown and you open the package? Y'all know what that smells like. You don't want that in your beer, that's for sure. So the flavor is going to be affected by that, but also once those yeast cells burst, it's going to increase the pH level in your brew, and that's also going to affect the flavor in a negative way. So how do you avoid Autolysis? Well, I've kind of already told you the first one. The cause is the answer, right? You have to move that beverage off the yeast cake. My personal opinion is if you're going to have it more than 2 months, in the fermenter, move it off the yeast cake sometime after a month into some other vessel, okay, for aging. If you're going to age it in a vessel like that, like another fermenter. The other cause is poorly racking. So make sure you're using an auto siphon, or you're taking measures to not splash and make a big mess. You know, you don't want to add oxygen and stuff, so that can cause issues. You've got to be gentle. Be gentle with it. Other causes. So those are the two main causes, but there's a few more things that can cause autolysis. Fermenting too warm. We've all been there, right? So anything really above 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 25 Celsius, can result in autolysis, because it's basically stressing the yeast. So maintaining or controlling the yeast or the temperature of your brew is super important, and that includes rapid temperature changes, another cause of autolysis. So especially like when you're lagering a beer, you don't want to change the temperature more than a degree or two per day. You just want to be very careful not to make any drastic temperature changes. So keep that in mind in general, that when you're pitching your yeast, once you've pitched, try to keep the temperature even, and don't let it, if you have a way to do that, and try not to let it move too quickly in either direction. Excuse me. There's also something called osmotic shock. Osmotic? Cheers. Osmotic. So this is something that, so basically, you're dealing with when we're talking about autolysis, we're talking about high gravity products, like high ABV products, right? Let's just say like 7% or above, okay? So anytime you just pitch your yeast directly into a high gravity, beverage, it can cause shock to that yeast. And it stresses the yeast cells out and can contribute to autolysis. So one of the ways to get around that is to something we don't do much anymore, because modern yeast, you normally don't have to do this anymore, but something we used to have to do, and I highly recommend for a high gravity beer, is to rehydrate your yeast first. So you take, if you're using dry yeast or whatever, you want to rehydrate it first in water. Don't rehydrate it in wort. Don't rehydrate it in your existing wort that you already made. Just do it in like water. 1 packet of yeast in like 100 mils of water, 200 mils of water at most. Let it, get nice and wet, stir it up a little bit, and then let it sit for 15 minutes. Now, I'm also a big proponent of adding a special kind of yeast nutrient at this point. And Lalaman makes a really good one specifically for rehydrating yeast. It's a rehydrating yeast, helper or nutrient called GoFirm. So, if you're doing a lot of high gravity beers or whatever, you might want to look into it. You add some of the GoFirm to that water, then you put the yeast in it, let it rehydrate for about 15 minutes, and then you put the whole thing into your fermenter. And you're going to do that around room temperature. That way, your yeast has a chance to bloom and start growing and gets used to the room temperature water for a little bit before you just dump it into a really high gravity beer. Anyway, I'm not sure if I went over on my time, but I hope that helps explain what that is and what to look for. And in general, these are actually really good sort of general rules to go by anyway when you're making beer, because they also help other off-flavor things, from appearing. So I will see you in a week for another video, and until then, keep on brewing.